Hello viewers, today we're going to do a totally different video from the usual. For most of my subscribers this car is going to be familiar because we have done a full overhaul over this engine. This car right now, it has M54B30, which is the 3 liter 231 horsepower, or at least BMW is claiming that this power is that. Yeah, just going to show you quickly how the engine looks like, and after that we're going to show you what mod we're going to do on it. So as we can see, this is not the typical M54. We have done some modifications. By that I mean this car has M56 valve cover, and because of that we have done some modification on the oil gases, which I have talked about in the previous video. If you want to see it, just watch the older videos. I'm going to put it in the description below. Yeah, right now the car has some upgraded coil plugs. Actually the pistons in this engine is forged, but the compression ratio is kept the same, so it's pretty much like a stock engine, except that the cylinder head is ported, but it's not something aggressive or something like that. But let me show you what is going to be the main thing which we're going to do over this car. Okay, so this is the full kit which we're going to install on this car. As I told you, my older subscribers are going to know that this car is going to receive G-Power Supercharger Kit. This is everything included in the kit. As we can see, it's not so small kit, but it's a lot of things, because G-Power have made a kit which is plug and play, let's say. Not fully, but it's going to need some modifications. We're going to show it in the video. It's not so simple to install it, but still I think we're going to manage to do it. Some things probably not going to be used like this, but we're going to show it later in the video. Yeah, the most interesting thing for 99% of the viewers is probably going to be this. This is the supercharger itself, which is kind of heavy. We're going to show it a little bit more in depth when it came times for it. This is it. The other thing which is kind of massive is this flange, which is going to be installed around the alternator. We have some wiring, which is going to, yeah, extension wiring. This was for the muff, or that's right. Yeah, for the muff. I don't remember which one are those, but we're going to figure it out. This probably is going to be supply for the supercharger. And yeah, actually Todor, the owner, have already sent it the original software maps, calibrations, or how do you want to call it, the software from the ECU to G-Power, which is included in the price of this kit. So you are sending the software of the car, and after they receive it, they modify it and they send it back to you. So you're just going to need to upload it. And Todor actually have bought the cable and the software about it for downloading the ECU file.
Yeah, the cable comes in with the kit, and the software you download it from G-Power's website. Now they call themselves Infinitas.
Okay, and you already have it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have already the file, which means when we install everything, we just going to need to upload the new file, and the car should run, and even it should drive. Probably it's going to need some minor modifications in the ends, because this file which they sent is kind of universal, but as we probably know, and many of you guys know, from car to car there is a lot of difference. So now we're going to start with disassembling a little bit the things which we are going to need, and we're going to show you step by step the procedure. Probably is going to be kind of long video, but this is it. There is no other way around. So this is the parts which we have removed from the car. As you can see, the covers, the holes for the throttle body, the throttle body itself, the DISA, and the idle air control. So yeah, and I decided to remove this cover, which is installed here. Yeah, this is how it looks, everything removed. We're going to need to remove the fan, the alternator, the serpentine belts, and the pulley of the hydraulic pump. Yeah, of course we're going to undo the battery cable because of the main battery cable on the alternator. So we're going to remove all of this, so to gain more access, so to be able to install this flange right here, this big flange. so we're going to need to gain some access so to be able to install it. The alternator is out. It's pretty simple, held by 2 bolts. As I told you, I have disconnected the battery and it is out. After that, yeah, we have removed the fan, of course. Actually, this car previously had some coach fan, but right now it's with electrical fan, so it's much more easier for removal. And yeah, after that we decided to remove the pulley for the hydraulic pump, which is held by 3 bolts. And now we're going to need to figure out the
Brackets.
The brackets for the hydraulic pump. So this is the original bracket for the hydraulic pump, which is installed like that. It's held here with 3 Torx bolts and after that with 2 normal bolts. And this is the bracket which is sent from G-Power, which is perfect copy, if we lay it down like that, from the original bracket, as we can see. So this bracket should be installed on the hydraulic pump, and after that we should take the bigger one, and I believe it should be installed something like that. So it should be looking something like this. So now I'm going to try to test fit it, and I'm going to see is it going to work. I'm not sure where this it goes, but probably going to aim to the pulley or something like that. So let me try to fit it and we're going to see how it looks like. Okay, so the bracket is installed on the pump, and this is the longer bolt which should be tightened to the bigger flange. I'm going to try to aim it. And yeah, you're going to need to install the bolts which are provided from G-Power, because the heads are a little bit smaller than the original ones, so you're not going to be able to install the original bolts, which is not big of a deal. And yeah, this is one additional bolt which they provided, which is going to be installed here. But first of all, I'm going to need to install the bigger bracket, so let me try to aim it. So pretty much this is how the flange should look like, the upper one. This I believe should hold the supercharger, but actually now I'm going to remove it because it's going to be on our way to work a little bit easier. And I'm going to continue with the oil gases, which is right here. As we can see, we have modified the oil gases on this M54 engine. It's totally different on different engines because of this M56 valve cover. Actually here should be a little bit easier than on the M54s because of the simplified oil separator, which is integrated in the valve cover itself. So now I'm going to remove all these hoses, which are not going to be needed, and we're going to put the plugs which G-Power provided. So this is the plugs which should be installed on the intake manifold, which is going to prevent the parasitic air to go inside the manifold. This is going to block the both inlets in the manifold. And about this hose, which once again is going to be for the oil gases. So this hose originally should be installed, let me see how it was, probably something like that. I'm not 100% sure how it was, but probably it's going to be something like that. This should go to the oil separator on the M54, but because we have the M56 valve cover, we don't have any separator underneath the intake manifold, which means we are not going to have any work underneath here. We are just going to need to install a hose from here to the, let me show you, to here, but we're going to see that in later state because we need to install this first. So for those of you that are wondering why I have removed the oil gases rail, it's because this is almost impossible to be removed, and yeah, this is not original once again. So when you snap it in place, it's almost impossible to remove it, even with the rail removed. So yeah, we managed to do it, 2 people, after half an hour. And now we're going to install the plugs provided from G-Power. This is the both plugs, which should snap directly in place. The smaller one, of course, go here, so it should just snaps like that. And the other one, once again, on the bigger hole, like that. And as you can see, the both inlets for the oil gases are blocked right now. We are not going to need this anymore. We're just going to need, probably we're going to need this angle here. Probably we're going to need it, so I'm going to take it out. We have cut it from this from the original holes of M56. So I'm going to reinstall back this with the both plugs installed in place, and we're going to continue. Okay, now I'm going to connect the vacuum for the fuel pressure regulator. So we are going to disconnect from here, and the next step what G-Power says is to connect it. Let me take a white and show you. Yeah, I'm going to connect it underneath the vacuum which is blocked with a bolt. So I'm going to remove the plug which is covering the vacuum line, and I'm going to connect straight this. Probably going to reroute it from here. Okay, this is the blanking plug in the intake manifold which is cover one of the vacuum ports, and not sure, let me try to film it like that. So as we can see, this is the vacuum line of the fuel regulator. This is the bolt which I showed you earlier with the mirror, and underneath is connected the vacuum for the fuel regulator. So we're going to leave it like that. And actually you're going to ask yourself why we are doing this. It's because we're going to have some positive pressure in the intake manifold. So this is the fuel filter with the integrated fuel regulator. And the vacuum line which we have connected to the intake manifold goes right to this point here. And once again, because we're going to have some positive pressure in the intake manifold, this regulator is going to compensate for that, and that's why we are connecting there. That's why we're going to need this vacuum line connected there. So now we're going to continue with the extension of the hydraulic hose. As we can see, this is the next package which we're going to open up, and the idea is to cut out this hose somewhere here, I guess. It really hurts my heart to cut a brand new original hydraulic hose from this car, but there is no other way. So I'm going to cut it somewhere here, and we're going to extend the hose, and after that attach it to the hydraulic reservoir. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but this is the only way to move the hydraulic reservoir from the way. Okay, after extending the hose for the hydraulic reservoir, now we're going to continue with the installation of the throttle body. So let me take a white. So by installation of throttle body, I am talking about this plug right here, which has in total 6 wires. So we're going to need to extend this plug. I know it sounds bad, but you're going to need to cut it. So I'm going to cut it somewhere here, so to have enough wire to solder the wires which G-Power provided. So this is what is included inside. Actually, everything included inside is pretty good with all these heat shrinks, and I believe it's going to be pretty good. And actually the wiring is really high grade wires, it's not some cheap wires. So this is the wires which are originally used in the original wiring harness, which means that they have provided a good wiring. And actually it's pretty interesting that we have several more plugs, these two ones here, which are just plug and play. You just plug it and the cable are going to be extended. But I believe that G-Power have decided to make our lives a little bit harder by extending the wires by ourselves, because I have never seen a plug like this on a different place, especially a male type of plug like this. and probably BMW is not selling something like that, and that's why we're going to need to extend it, and that's why G-Power is not offering just plug and play station wire, because there is no male type of this plug. That's why we're going to extend the wires by ourselves. So don't go crazy by cutting this plug, because if you cut it too long, you're not going to have a lot of space for doing the rest of the wiring. So I'm going to cut it somewhere here should be fine. So like that. And once again, don't forget to disconnect your battery, because you can short like something like that. So like that. Now we're going to have access to the wires. As we can see, we're going to have 6 wires in total. Most of them are brown. I'm not sure are the cables that G-Power provided are going to have exactly the same colors. Now I'm going to check it. The wires pretty much matched up the colors, so it's really important to not mess this job. If you mess this job, you're going to have some funky work on your throttle body, so pay your attention when you're doing this. Try to match up your colors. It's okay, once again, it's a good idea to take your time doing this job, because it's really important to not mess up the wiring. Allez, ciao. Okay, all the wiring is soldered to the multi-plug wires. Now I'm going to install the heat shrings, and we're going to continue with the installation in the car, of course. Okay, so all the heat shrings are installed, and pretty much we have the same length cables right here. Now I'm going to install this protective shielding for the wires. So just going to try to aim it like so. Actually, this is some good quality heat shielding. Here probably it's going to be a little bit hard. I'm not even sure. Do I need to go to this point? I hope it's going to work out. Now the heat shrink. I think this should be a heat shrink, or at least it looks like that. I'm not 100% sure is this a heat shrink, but it's shrinking a really small amount of it. Okay, and now I'm going to install this plastic. Okay, like that. Yeah, don't forget to install the other portion of this before you continue. So I'm just going to aim it like that, so to be sure that I'm not going to forget it. So just going to leave it here. And these ones are probably going to, I'm not sure, am I going to be able to fit them? The wires are kind of short, because if I put them here, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to take them out. So let me figure it out what I'm going to do. But I managed to install all of them with the heat shrinks and everything else. Now the only thing which is going to left is to put this heat shrink over everything, so everything to be covered and to look a little bit better. So give me a second to show you how it's going to look in the end. But yeah, this is all the connections. Once again, it's really important to be sure that all the wirings, the color of all of the wirings are matching, because if not, you're going to have some issues after that. Okay, so in the end, this is how it looks like, the extended plug with all the heat shrinks installed. As we can see, we have covered all of the wiring, as we can see here. So yeah, there is no exposed wires. So now we're going to continue with the fit of the supercharger. For this, we're going to need to disconnect the valve hose, which is down there. As you can see, this is the pressure sensor, the oil pressure sensor, which we're going to undo right here. So this is the pressure sensor and this is the valve oil line. So we're going to need to undo the pressure sensor and the bolt. Is going to be a little bit hard to record, but I'm going to try to do it. So this is the oil pressure sensor which we have removed, and this is the bolt for the valve inlet holes, oil holes. This is the original bolt, and as you can see, G-Power sent us two different bolts. As I told you, one of it is a hollow bolt, which is going to be installed on the place of the original bolt for the valve hose. It's going to be this bolt. Yeah, of course we're going to install the washers, which are going to be here, and on this bolt we're going to place the oil pressure sensor, which is going to be installed like that. And after that, this bolt here is going to be installed for the inlet oil hose for the supercharger. So it's going to look like that. Let me show you. It's going to be like that. This bolt is going to be installed on the place of the original placement of the oil pressure sensor, so it's going to be like that. Yeah. We're just going to place the oil pressure sensor on a different place, so to be able to install the inlet of the oil pressure for the supercharger on the place of the oil pressure sensor. And after that, we're going to use this extension plug for the original wiring for the sensor, because I guess the wiring is not long enough. I'm not sure I'm going to try to install it without the extension, but I believe I'm going to be able to install it. Not sure why they provided this installation. Actually, if I need to be honest, I'm not sure are we going to use this. We're going to see. So I'm sure that you guys not going to be able to perfectly see what I'm doing, but once again, now I'm going to install a hollow bolt with the two aluminum washers, sealing washers, so to be able to seal the inlet holes of the valves. So the both washers, and now I'm going to tighten it up. Really hope that you guys are seeing what I'm doing, but it's really hard to film it because it's really tight here. Okay, just going to check that the both washers are installed, and they are. Now I'm going to tighten it up. Okay, this should be enough. I'm going to install the oil pressure sensor. I have removed the copper sealant ring and I'm going to install the provided from G-Power, the aluminum one. So it's going to go like that. And now I'm going to install it on the bolt. This should be enough. I'm just going to poke the wiring for this sensor. Once again, I'm not exactly sure why they provide extension poke for here, but as we can see, we can install the original installation here. Still, I'm not 100% sure what was the procedure from now on. Probably after that we're going to need to pull up the installation somehow, and that's why we're not going to have enough length for this installation. We're going to see in later states, but for now I will leave the original installation pocket in here without this extension. We're going to see in later state are we going to need it, but now we're going to continue with the inlet holes. Just want to show you before that how it looks like behind here with the sensor installed on the bolt for the valve holes. So the other bolt provided from G-Power, once again with two aluminum sealant washers. So I'm just going to place it like that, and the other washer, of course. Okay, this should be enough. Once again, you need to make sure that you have installed the both aluminum washers, so to be sure that this hose is not going to leak. Yeah, pretty much this is for the supply of the oil for the supercharger. Okay, so originally G-Power going to want from you to cut out your dipstick, so to be able to install this CNC machined piece, and you're going to want to install it somewhere here, if I remember right. This is what G-Power going to want from you. This is for draining the oil from the supercharger. Luckily for us, we are not going to need to do this, because as we saw, guys, we have a totally different design of the oil separation system, which is integrated in the valve cover right here, and we don't have any oil separator underneath here, which means we don't have the drainage installed in the oil dipstick. The drainage of the oil separator is happening inside the valve cover, which is much more simplified. So that's why we are not going to cut the dipstick, but just few words. G-Power wants to cut the dipstick roughly 30 millimeters, and after that install this piece here. And as we can see, if we install it, we're going to connect the drain hose somewhere here. But in our case, we're going to reinstall our dipstick. We're going to remove this hose which we have poked with a bolt, and we're going to install the oil drainage right here, which is going to simplify a lot the system which G-Power have made. Okay, I believe now is the time to install the oil dipstick, and this should be the hose for the drainage of the oil on the supercharger. So as I told you, I have removed this poke, let's call it here, which is covered with a bolt, and now we're going to connect the hose provided from G-Power directly here, and actually it fits pretty snug. I'm pretty sure that it's not even going to require a bracket, but still I'm going to put a bracket so to be sure that it's not going to leak. It's a little bit hard with one hand, but yeah, it fits pretty well, so I believe it's going to work. Another thing that G-Power provided is this O-ring, which should go here. Actually, I don't know why, but the original O-ring break down when we remove the oil dipstick, and actually this is a brand new O-ring which we installed when we rebuilt the engine. Not sure why it break down, but actually it didn't leak any oil from here, but I don't know. It's good that they provide a new O-ring which we're going to install here, and now I'm going to install the whole dipstick, and after that we're going to continue the struggle with this, I don't know, is this aluminum pipe, charge pipe. So I started trying to install this pipe, which should be installed on the throttle body location, but I immediately found some issues with it. So this bracket here, which is holding the valve for the petrol gases, is on our way, so we're going to need to cut it probably somewhere here. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to cut it because, as you can see, it's not allowing us to install this tubing in place. And actually I'm thinking that this is the reason why G-Power decided to give us this extension wire here, this one, for the oil pressure sensor, because probably when we install this this wire, which is connected to the oil pressure sensor, is going to be a little bit stretched out. I'm going to see, but probably this is the reason why they give this wire. So this is a bracket which I cut it for the petrol gases, and this is how much I have removed. And as you're probably going to guess, we're going to have one less bolt holding the installation, which is not big of a deal. This should not be on our way anymore, so I just painted it a little bit with a black spray, so to not get any rust on it. So now I'm going to install it, and yeah, actually I have already put the oil dipstick. I'm not going to connect it on the lower bolt, but this is how long is the oil drainage. I believe it should be plenty enough. Doesn't matter that we have connected it to the lower inlet. And now let's install this valve and see, are we going to have some other obstacles for this pipe here. And yeah, actually one more tip: the oil supply for the charger should be pointing downwards, because if it points upwards, it's going to be on the way of the pipe once again, so it should be looking something like that. So after some struggle, I managed to install this, let's call it charge pipe, I guess. The fuel gases valve, I'm not sure how to call this, but you guys going to understand me. It's impossible to be installed in this bracket which we have cut it. As we can see how far away is the rubber part of it, and it should be aligned with this. I don't even know why this is here. I actually can cut it, but I guess G-Power have decided this is important and they made it. Probably it's going to help something with the reservoir, with the hydraulic reservoir. I'm still not sure, we're going to see about it. But like that, it's impossible to install it in the bracket. It's too far away, and actually it's pretty snug here, so I doubt it's going to make any issues. But yeah, by that I'm not going to be able to fit this in his previous location, which was in this hole here, in this bracket. Actually it's too far away, so probably going to leave it to sit like that. It should not be big of an issue. So when you're doing modifications like this, upgrades, there is always going to be some sacrifices. It's impossible to not mess up something, so it's not big of a deal in my opinion. These petrol gases, some people even remove them from the systems. So yeah, probably going to leave it like that. Yeah, the other thing which is really important is this plug for the oil temperature sensor right there. You need to install it like that. It should go through here, because if you place it underneath, you're going to damage your wires. And I actually needed to remove this plastic shielding on it, because we didn't have enough room to install the plug, because it was hitting in the body of the charge pipe. So I removed the plastic thingy of the plug, and I just put some additional insulation there, so to be sure that the wires are all fine. Okay, the idle air control valve is installed, and pretty much the whole wiring loom, the installation of the engine, is going to be held only in one place on this nut. Previously it was held on 3 places, which one of it was here, which on the bracket which we cut it, and the other one is on the throttle body. But now the throttle body is not going to be there, so it's going to be held only here. And still the wiring is held pretty well. I don't think it's going to be any issues, so it's stiff enough there, so I think it's going to be all fine. Okay, so it turns out that I have made a mistake. I was watching the documentation of G-Power about the installation, and it turns out that the hose which I was thinking that is going to be for the draining of the oil on the supercharger, it should not be this. This hose is going here. And I was thinking that we're going to use it for the dipstick. And the oil drainage hose is this big hose right here. So yeah, I made a mistake, and actually the fitment is not going to be the same, because this is the diameter on the dipstick, this is the diameter of the hose. So yeah, I'm going to need to figure out something, because the diameters don't match up. Okay, so I came up with this idea. I'm going to decrease the diameter of the flange with this. Actually, this is two-step reductor, I don't know how to call it. So the outer diameter is 18 millimeters, which is the diameter inside this silicone hose for the drainage of the oil, and the smaller one is the same diameter as on the oil dipstick, which is roughly 12 millimeters. So I just decided to crimp it here, so to not use any clamp. I was going to crimp this side of it, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to need to decrease the length of this hose, so that's why I didn't crimp it. It was possible to crimp it on the dipstick, but the machine didn't have enough room so to hold it in place. So yeah, we're going to decrease the diameter with this one, and still we're going to use this part of the dipstick, so to not use this. Okay, so I started working on the main bracket, and I have installed the first pulley, which is installed right here, and this is how it looks like. Actually, we have two pulleys. I'm still figuring out where I need to install the other one, but it looks like that. G-Power has sent this kind of sleeve which goes directly on the pulley, and after that we're going to use these bolts. So we're going to use the washer and the bolt like that. Here is pretty much the same. And some tip for all of you guys, which are probably at least one or two of you going to install this kit. Before installing the bracket, you need to install the alternator, and when you're doing this, you're going to take the bolt which was going through the pulley originally, and you're going to place it and like that on the top. And after that, it's a good idea to finger tighten a few threads, and after that you're going to want to tighten up the bottom bolt of the alternator, which is right there. You're going to want to fully tighten it up, because if you install the bracket, I'm going to show you, give me a second. So this is the idea behind tightening up first the bolt of the alternator, because you're going to get behind the bracket, it's going to be impossible to install it. So now let me figure out what's the next step, because I don't have any idea. Okay, so now I'm going to try to assemble the bottom part of the bracket, and as we saw in the beginning of the video, we have changed this part of the hydraulic pump bracket. Right now actually we have some difference. On the original bracket, as we can see, we have a thread here which is for the bolt, which means the original bolt was installed backwards. It was like that, not like that. But now with the new bracket we have a hollow bolt here, hollow hole here, which means we don't have a thread. And yeah, actually this bolt is meant to go here, and the longer bolt, which now is going to go through here, we're going to need to figure out some nut from behind, because as I told you, we don't have any thread on our bracket, so probably going to use this nut. I believe it's meant for this. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to use this nut, which is going to go behind the hydraulic pump, and hopefully this is going to hold the bracket in place. Yeah, and I have installed the bolt which corresponds to this longer bolt of the alternator. Yeah, you cannot use the original bolt because you don't have enough space for the head of the bolt. It needs to go inside this hole of the bracket, so only way to go is to use the bolts which are provided from G-Power. So let me install these two bolts, this one and this one, for the bracket, and we're going to continue from there. Okay, just to show you from below the hydraulic pump, how everything looks like with the bracket. So once again, the bracket provided from G-Power plus the main bracket. I have attached the both bolts, and as I told you, I have put a nut from behind. Let me see, am I going to be able to show you? Yeah, there is the nut right there. I put some washer, and pretty much I have tightened out all the bolts, the main 2 ones and the 3 ones which are holding the bracket to the hydraulic pump itself. So let's see with what we're going to continue. Okay, now I'm going to continue with the other pulley, which is once again, as we can see, this sleeve. After that, the pulley. Actually, this is how really interesting packaging. I'm not sure what type of pulleys, what brand is this. I cannot see anywhere what it is. Actually, let me measure it. I want to check what is the dimensions of these pulleys. So let's see. 26, which is really common, and this is going to be 70. Okay, 60 by 26, which is really common dimensions of a pulley. So I guess if this fails, it's going to be really easy to find a new ones without ordering them from G-Power. So once again, the sleeve goes here, after that the bolt. So let's install it in the bracket. So the other pulley should go on, where it was, yeah, on this thread here, over the hexagon bolt. So it's going to, I won't record the step that I'm assembling things because it's really tight and I cannot place the camera anywhere. So that's why the video is a little bit like this. So yeah, this is the thread where the pulley should go. Okay, the pulley is installed, and actually these bolts for the 2 pulleys should be torqued to 25 Newton meters, and the bolts for the alternator, which is right here, should be torqued to 49 Newton meters. I haven't torqued it actually, so I'm going to do it after a second. And yeah, everything here starts to look like a spider web, but nothing I can do about it. So we have a little bit of issue with the hydraulic pump pulley, and the pulley itself, it turns out to be a little bit bigger and has really small clearance with the pulley provided from G-Power. So we're going to need to downgrade to the original sizing of the pulley of the hydraulic pump. Yeah, the owner bought a bigger diameter pulley, so to decrease the RPMs of the pulley on high RPMs on the engine, while he's on higher RPMs on the engine. So that's why he bought a bigger pulley for the hydraulic pump, so to not stress it so much. And actually this is the original one, once again from aluminum, and he bought it from ESC. So I'm going to remove the one which he ran the car previously and show you the difference in the diameter. So this is the pulley which the car was running before that, and this is the previous pulley which he used, and just to show you the difference in the diameter. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you on camera, but there is a difference, believe me or not. So as we can see here, I'm not sure how much exactly was the difference, but for sure this is the smaller pulley, the original sizing of the pulley of this hydraulic pump. And as I told you, previously we ran with this pulley and we didn't have any issues, but now because the pulley provided from the G-Power is hitting the pulley on the top, that's why we're going to downgrade to the smaller size pulley. So hopefully it's not going to cause any issues with the hydraulic pump in a long run. So the new pulley is installed, and we have much more clearance with the upper pulley right here. And for those of you that are wondering, this car is running at a super damper for less vibrations. And yeah, pretty much this should work out. And if you have original pulley for a hydraulic pump, you should not have any issues. But yeah, in our case we had. So now we're going to continue with the bracket for the hydraulic reservoir. So G-Power have provided hardware for it, and this is the bolts which they give us, but I prefer to use the original bolts which were installed, and the original ones are going to go here, and the bolt provided from G-Power is going to be tightened up here like that, and for here we're going to use this bolt with this nut. So we're not going to use these two bolts which they provide. I always prefer to use the original bolts if it's applicable. So let's try to maneuver the reservoir and try to fit this bracket there. So because it's really tight fitment, I believe it's going to be better to install this rubber hose. Yeah, it's not, should not be here. This rubber silicone attachment, which is going to attach the supercharger to the charge pipe. I believe now is the better time to install it, because after that, because of the hydraulic hoses, we are not going to have a lot of room to do it. And actually I have undone the brackets so to be able to rotate the hoses, so to be able to fit the both hoses underneath here. Just quickly to show you the setup of the hydraulic reservoir. The both hoses are going through the bracket here. I have tightened up the reservoir, and as we can see, we have made this hose longer because it should be out of the way of the compressor. I guess that is the main reason. And the other hose goes around the alternator, which should not cause any issue. Yeah, don't forget to tighten up the positive wire on the alternator. Now I'm going to test fit the supercharger to see how it's going to sit. Before that, just going to install this plug, which should go here. This is for the mass airflow meter. This is just for making the wiring a little bit longer. It's not impossible to do it. Okay, I did it with one hand. So, just making the wiring a little bit longer. This is the idea behind this. It was going to be so much easier with the wiring of the throttle body, but yeah. Okay, now it's time to continue with the fitting of the supercharger, turbocharger, or how do you want to call it. Actually, we're going to start with the installation of the drainage of the oil, which should go here. And we need to figure out how much we're going to need to cut this hose, because it's really long. And as I showed you earlier in the video, I have made this fitting, which is going to go here like that, and from here we're just going to connect the silicone holes, and yeah, it's going to look something like that. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to hold, because there is no pressure at all here. It's just the drainage of the oil. So let me measure how much we're going to need to cut this hose. For sure it's really long, and we are not going to use everything from it. The supercharger is fitted. It wasn't the easiest job in the world, but I managed to install it in this silicone sleeve, let's call it. But it's kind of hard to fit it here. I have cut the oil drainage hose, and as we can see, it's installed here. I just need to install I don't remember how this was called. This type of thingy, a clamp. Yeah, this was called a clamp. So I need to install the clamp here. So sure that it's not going to have any leaks. But other than that, yeah, I need to remove it once again, because I need to install two more clamps. I just wanted to test fit it and see, is it aligning in the holes here. Okay, let's see what we have behind this yellow plastic cover. the impeller itself, as we can see. For here we're probably going to use this O-ring, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, probably this is going to be because it fits pretty good. So actually before fitting the supercharger is going to be much more easier to do this now, to install this flange, which is going to hold the throttle body. We're going to place it on a totally different spot than before. So now I'm going to install these 3 studs. I'm just going to put a little bit of thread locker. A little bit more. Okay, so to be sure that they are not going to get undone. Okay, the next one, once again, some thread locker. And try to clean up the excessive. So now this is the O-ring which is supposed to go like that. So like so. If I understand right, this angle here should align with this I don't know, notch, or I don't know how to call it. So it's going to be something like that, as we can see how it aligns with this. So let me just check the O-ring. Is everything okay? Yes. So it's going to be like that, I guess. And now I'm going to try to install the 3 nuts which should hold the flange in place. This is going to be really hard for sure, but I guess it's not impossible. So I managed to install them. I can't believe it. So I'm just going to tighten them up. You don't want to go crazy with this. Because it's not so hard to pull up the threads with the stud. Okay, like that. So the flange is in place. Okay, once again the supercharger is installed. The only way I was able to install it with this silicone hose in place was to untighten a little bit the bolts for the charge pipe. I didn't manage to install it in other way than this, so I untightened the 3 bolts here so to be able to flex a little bit the charge pipe backward and forward, and this was the only way I was able to fit it here on the main bracket. And now I'm going to install these 3 bolts which are aligning here, here and here on these 3 places. Okay, now I'm going to install these several silicone hoses. So here we're going to connect the idle air control valve. So like that. So I'm not exactly sure about the angle, but this should go here. So once again, let me take a clamp. I'm pretty sure that this even don't need a clamp, but we're going to use it. So like so. Now I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to tighten up this. Yeah, probably this should. This crazy amount of cables and hoses here. With all these hoses and wiring, additional hoses and wiring, I can only imagine if this car goes to another shop and the owner just wants, let's say, intake manifold gasket change, and the shop made him an offer, and after that, if they see what is under the bonnet, they're going to be really disappointed. what they got into. Now I'm going to continue with the throttle body, for which we have installed this flange earlier in the video. So if I believe it should be something like that, or yeah, I should. And actually this is why we have made this spoke, let me see it, this spoke much more longer. Actually we have made it much more longer than needed in my opinion, because let me show you. If the spoke was long to somewhere here, it was going to be plenty enough, but yeah, we have much more wiring than needed, but doesn't matter. Better longer than shorter. So don't forget to install the oil inlet for the supercharger, because after that it's really tight there and it's going to be really hard to make the hose to go through here. So when you're installing the supercharger, don't forget to put your hose somewhere here, so to be able to attach it to the oil inlet. Let's attach the oil fit line. So we have two aluminum washers. We're going to remove this, we don't need it. Goes should be like that. A really good idea to check to see where your hose goes through, because it is, yeah, let me see, yeah, this is the hose. It is possible to pinch it somewhere, and if you guys block this hose, the supercharger is not going to last very long. So yeah, it's a good idea to check is the hose moving freely without any obstructions. Okay, I just installed the diesel valve, not big of a deal. It's like before, with holding by 2 bolts. And now we're going to continue with the most emblematic thing of this G-Power kit, this orange tubing, which is going to be connected to the throttle body. And yeah, this is the O-ring, which is going to be installed in this groove here. So let me open it up. And they actually put the diameter and the thickness of the O-ring, really convenient if we need to change it. Like that. Little bit of silicone grease. For easier installation. And this, I guess it should be like that. We're going to need to connect these holes here. So it should snap in place. Okay, this is getting out of the throttle body all the time, but that's why we have this bracket, which is going to be installed like something like that. We're going to need to undo these 2 bolts, this one and this one, so to be able to install this here. And this should hold this tubing in place, because it's getting out of the place all the time. So let me undo them. And actually this is the last 2 bolts which I have from the kit, so I guess they should be installed here. So this is supposed to hold the tubing in place. Okay, now we're going to continue with the installation of the pulley of the compressor. So G-Power have provided this bolt plus this O-ring and of course the pulley. So let's figure out how to install it. So firstly the O-ring. Take your time to be sure that you have placed it correctly in the groove. I'm going to put maybe a little bit of silicone grease, so to be sure that it's held in place, because it's falling down really easy. Okay, like that. Now the pulley. I'm just watching to be sure that the O-ring is not going to fall down. Yeah, everything seems fine. And now, it's really strange for me, but G-Power recommends this bolt to be torqued to 10 Newton meters, which is, in my opinion, kind of low, but this is the only information which I found for the torque spec for this bolt. And yet the belt itself, this is the belt which they provided, 2285 6 pk. So this is the length of the belt, and now I'm going to try to figure out where it goes through, because with this additional 2 pulleys it's going to be much more harder than the original belt which this car had previously, especially with these close tensioners. So I managed to install it. So this is how it looks like from where it goes: water pump, alternator, the pulley which was on the way of the hydraulic pump pulley, and from this pulley to the compressor. So yeah, this is how it looks like, everything. I'm going to torque this once again to 10 Newton meters. Okay, this is actually second try. Okay, 10 Newton meters. For some reason I wasn't able to torque this bolt to 10 Newton meters, because I guess because I have greased the ring behind. I guess this ring should not have any lubricant on it, because when I degreased everything behind, the O-ring and everything behind, then I was able to torque this bolt, because when the O-ring was greased, it was not allowing me to torque the bolt. So I guess this O-ring behind should be degreased, and you should not apply any lubricant on it. Okay, we're pretty much done, but before that we're going to need to install the mass airflow meter, of course. For this we're going to use this silicone sleeve holes, or I guess holes is going to be right, but judging by the length of it, I'm not sure holes is a proper name. So like that, the two clamps is going directly here, and yeah, this is the wiring which we have made longer for the mass airflow meter once again. Oops. Maybe I'm going to need to put this clamp first, like that, because after that it cannot go through because of the compressor. So something like that, I guess. So okay, this is the air filter provided from G-Power. Not sure how many times I have said G-Power in this video. Nothing fancy. And the wiring, we're just going to, okay, let's first install the filter. Now it's going to be a little bit easier. This don't even need a clamp. It's so tight. Like that. Okay, and the wiring. Like so. So pretty much we are done here with the kit. The only thing that left is to install the fuel filter, which we're going to do probably tomorrow. And yeah, the other thing which we're going to do, we're going to install these spark plugs, which are recommended for this type of kit. Okay, on the next day, now we're going to install the fuel filter, and yeah, you're going to need to remove the dust shield, the dust cover, and this is the filter. As we can see, it's pretty old. We are not sure when was the last time that this filter was changed, because as we can see, it is original one from BMW, and actually all the clamps are original ones once again. So for sure this filter is kind of old. You're going to need to remove this nut here, the 3 clamps and tuned the back side and one on the front, and the vacuum for the fuel regulator. Okay, the new filter is installed. We have changed all the clamps on the ends of them. We had to put some additional rubber here because the filter was wiggling a little bit, so we decided to put some rubber here so to be nice and snug. And yeah, now we're just going to install the dust shield and we're going to proceed with the spark plugs. Okay, we have connected to the power supply. We're going to maintain, yeah, the gear doesn't cooperate, but we're going to try to maintain 14 volts while the owner is going to upload the file provided from G-Power. So he's going to use the software. Did you pay for the software or it was free? How it was? You pay only for the hardware, for the cable and stuff.
There is an additional fee for this whole tune by email thing. So it includes the connector with the cable. It includes modifying the software by G-Power, and
so we got disturbed. So how is the software called? Flash for BMW? iFlash for BMW?
iFlash for BMW.
Yeah, this is how it looks like.
You can download it from G-Power's website. Nowadays they're called Infinitas.
G-Power or the website?
Both.
Oh, Infinitas. Yeah, after that I'm going to show you how the connection OBD device looks like. Now pretty much the owner is going to follow the steps. Next finish, right?
Hopefully.
This is some hardcore tuning modifications. While he's doing that, I'm going to install the spark plugs. By that I'm going to remove the ignition coils. I'm not going to disturb the modification of the software. And about the spark plugs, we're going to install one step colder spark plugs for this swap, this upgrade, and the number of the spark plug. Okay, this is going to look a little bit better. This is what spark plugs we're going to use. So this is NGK. This should be one step colder than the OEM ones. Just some updates. How is running? How fast is going to happen? Estimate time 1 minute. So in total around 2 minutes. Okay, once again we got disturbed. So it's going to take roughly 2 minutes to upload the modification file from G-Power. Let's see what else we have in this laptop.
A lot of ROM Raider works.
Okay, final steps.
Please switch the ignition to off.
It's going to take some time, but it's not impossible. What error code we have? Echo has been successfully programmed and we have even a smile. So this should be a good thing, right? So now we're going to need to... What? This is going to be the end of this procedure, yeah. Okay, this is going to be the process for uploading the modified file from G-Power, which we're probably going to modify in later state more по-финно. We're going to do some kind of fine tune by ourselves, but first we're going to need at least the rough file for this. And yeah, actually I didn't show you the oil gases hose which we used. Actually this is the original hose which G-Power provided, and we managed to install it, as we can see, on the M56 valve cover to this orange emblematic tubing for the compressor. And yeah, I just needed to cut it a little bit here. By a little bit I mean how much. Yeah, this was all the cuttings which I did from the hose, which is connecting on this side, and pretty much after that it gets straight here. So we didn't need to buy a new hose, so I believe it looks pretty good, so it's going to work out. It goes directly where it should go. So now let me install the spark plugs finally and try to start up this car. And this is the hardware which the owner bought from G-Power. This is how it looks like. Nothing fancy. But if you want to do it, you're going to need this. How much it was the cost for this?
What was it? Something like $200. Sorry, euro. Like 200 euro for this.
Plus the other
kit,
things.
plus the price for modifying the software.
Okay, so the ignition plugs are out. Just to show you the ignition project. So the owner upgraded the coils. So especially for the first induction, it's going to be much better choice to use coils like this. Here just to show you the old spark plugs versus the new ones which we're going to use. As you can see, this is what is the new spark plug is going to look like, and this is the old one. So I'm just going to install them. So all the spark plugs are installed and torque to spec. Have installed the coil plugs, but I'm not going to connect them because we want to crank up the engine for a few seconds, so to gain some oil pressure inside the supercharger. And after that I'm going to connect them and we're going to see is it going to start. Okay, now we're going to connect the coil plugs and we're going to attempt to start it. And don't forget to top up your hydraulic fluid. I forget to say about this, but we have topped it up. Okay, the coil plugs are attached. Now we're going to try to start up the car and see how it runs. Yeah, I'm going to install the fan after that when I see that everything is okay. Да, готов. Okay, direct startup. It seems smooth. Let's see for some leaks. For now everything is dry. No oil coming out from here. Okay, so now I have installed a fan in this air duct. Now we're going to put the decorational cover, the cabin filter, and we're going to take the car for a run, so to heat it up a little bit, so to be able to test it, and we're going to see how it's going to perform. Test driving the car. So the car is pretty much warmed up, and we're going to try a few pull-ups, so to see how it feels. Okay, probably it's not going to come up pretty good on video, but we're going to try one pull to see how it pulls. Second gear, and let's see what it has.
Ready?
Ready. It feels like how much horsepower? Your estimate.
It was like 285.
So okay guys, now I'm going to post a video on which we have made a drag test between this car, which was before that stock. Yeah, it has small modifications like a ported cylinder head, and we have made a drag test between my car and this car with the stock version, and now we're going to redo the test with my car with the E36 versus the car right now, so to make a direct comparison to see what is going to be now and before, because I know some people don't like to see videos on which you just watch the instrument cluster, how the needles are running. I want to see a real life comparison. That's why we have made drag test before, and now we're going to do a drag test after to see what is going to be the difference. Okay, after switching the positions, I have taken the car to see how it feels. In the beginning everything was right, the car was feeling pretty good, but after one little bit harder push, we had a check engine light, and right now we have a dead miss on some cylinder, one or two. I am not exactly sure how much cylinders are failing. So we're going to back to the shop. I'm going to take the diagnostic tool and we're going to see what is the fault code, and probably we're going to have a dead miss on some cylinder, because right now even if we turn off the engine and crank it again, the miss doesn't go away. So I'm guessing some spark plug failed or something like that. We're going to see. I doubt it's going to be the coil plugs because they should be really reliable. So going back to the shop and going to try to figure out what is the issue. But before that, everything was fine. Okay, so how much time later? Estimate.
1 hour later, and 2 spark plugs changed. Several runs to the limiter. We were having some misfires, cylinders 5 and 6.
So yeah, pretty much briefly, we had check engine light because of misfire on cylinder number 5 and 6. The easiest thing which we done is to swap up the coils, but this didn't fix the issue, and we was kind of suspicious that it's going to be the coil, because as we saw, guys, we're using some high quality coils which are meant to be for this. And yeah, it turns out the problem was in the spark plugs, which we have changed with NGK with one-step coder. So we installed the older ones, and now the car seems okay. Probably going to try with totally different spark plugs to see one-step coder once again, but other,
yes, maybe different brands.
Different brands.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably going to try with some other ones, but just wanted to share you what was the issue with the car. But for now, the car feels pretty good. It accelerates strongly through the whole range of the RPMs, and yeah, the only thing that's left is to do a drag test and see in real life how fast this car became. And hopefully sooner or later the owner is going to go on a dyno, and we're going to see what are going to be the real gain of this upgrade. I'm going to end up the video here. I'm going to do the second part, on which we're going to show the difference before and after, for those of you that are interested to see. So okay guys, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.